So you saw the UFC this weekend. Did you see where I fucked up and I interviewed Daniel Cormier after he had been knocked out?
Yeah.
Dude, here's something that's like people think that somehow or another the UFC told me not to do that and I did it. Nobody said anything. It was just 100% my fuck up. And it was also my idea in the first place to stop interviewing fighters after they've been knocked out. It was 100% my idea.
How often did it happen before? In championship fights, it happened often, right?
Almost always, whether a guy got knocked out or TKO'd or submitted or lost a decision, I would interview the winner and I would interview the loser.
Every time?
Every time.
Okay, so it's normal.
Unless they ran out of the cage, which has happened before.
Yeah, I get it. So you were just running on instincts?
This is what happened. I was there for Gonzaga versus Krokop. Remember Gonzaga head kicked Krokop and just fucking into oblivion. Yeah. And it was bad. And I interviewed Krokop afterwards. And I'm telling you, that dude had no idea what I was talking about. Yeah. And I remember saying to the production team at the time, I was like, man, I don't think we should interview guys after they get knocked out like that. Like that was my saying, like that. Yeah. And then the one time it happened again was with Alistair. And after when Alistair Overeem fought Stipe Miocic and he remembered this guillotine that didn't really happen, he remembered Stipe tapping rather, and it didn't really happen. I was like, this poor guy, like he really has this memory in his head, and it's just not correct because he just got knocked the fuck out. He got knocked unconscious on television, like completely flatlined. And then a few minutes later, I'm asking him to be coherent. I'm like, I don't think it's fair. So it was my idea to stop doing this, and the UFC agreed. So it's not like they said we got to stop doing it, and I violated my own idea, and I just did it on. This is what happened after the fight was over. First of all, the fight was crazy, shocking how violent the ending was, because Jon really did fucking hate Daniel, and Daniel I think really did hate Jon, or at least had real anger. There was real emotions with these guys. It was insane. It was intense. When Jon landed that fucking head kick, and you saw him moving in for the kill, and then he stopped him right in front of us. He got on top of him and just blasted him. It was like right there. I remember looking over and I'm like, Jesus. He was just dropping bombs.
How close to you? Like real close to you?
It was pretty close if I remember correctly. I want to say it was like right off to my right if I remember correctly.
But you had a good look at it?
I had a real good look at it. Yeah. I mean, obviously I'm cage side. I got a good look at everything. But I had a real good look at that. It was intense. It was intense. And it was also, I felt like there was a couple shots too many. So I remember being stunned like, oh. I'm a big fan of Jon Jones, but I'm also a big fan of Daniel, and I'm a fan of both of them. I know they don't like each other, but I like both of them. I like them independently. I can't help the fact they're enemies, but I love hanging out with Jon, and I love hanging out with Daniel. I love doing commentary with Daniel. I love that guy. So I would never do anything to make him look bad. I was in shock. He was confused because he got knocked out, so he was confused that why the fight was stopped. And so he was mad that they stopped the fight because he just didn't understand because he'd just been KO'd. So he was arguing with Big John. I didn't hear the exact words. Then he was arguing with Dana. I didn't hear the exact words of that either. But Dana was in front of me. You got to realize when a KO like that happens in a world championship fight and you're standing in the octagon, you're surrounded by all these people screaming and cheering. The fucking noise is so loud. It's hard to figure out what the fuck is happening. So I couldn't figure out what Daniel and Dana were arguing about, but Dana's whole head was red. He was like, that fight was amazing. You fought your heart out. Like, I couldn't tell exactly what he said. Like, you'd hold your head up high. It was a great fight. That kind of stuff. But I think Daniel was still trying to figure out why the fight was stopped because it just had happened. He'd just woken up. Then he realized he got head kicked, and then he was really sad. And then he was upset. And I went to go talk to him, and literally as I'm going to talk to him, he's turning to me and I have the microphone. I'm like, why am I interviewing him after he got knocked out? What the fuck is wrong with me? Like, I don't even realize what I was doing. I was just in shock almost. Like, I went on instinct and I'm interviewing him. If I had a chance to stop and think, I should have been like, oh yeah, he's been KO'd, don't do it. So in the middle of me even talking to him, I say, normally I don't like to interview fighters after they've been knocked out, but it's just like I was stuck. I was already there talking to him and I didn't want to leave and walk away from him. And I really do care about that guy a great deal, and I just watched him get knocked out, and now I watch him, his heart's pouring out, and he's crying, when he was realizing that he got knocked out and he lost the fight. It was all awful. And so I put it was haunting me all night. Nobody had said anything. Nobody from the UFC got mad at me. No one said anything to me. There was just me thinking, why did I do that? Like, why did I interview him? I shouldn't have interviewed him. Even though we used to do it for every fight. it was the right move to stop doing it. And ironically, it was my idea. It was my move. I don't even know if I don't know if Brian Stan still interviews guys after they've been knocked out. I don't think he does, though, because Brian actually said thank you to me for that, because he got interviewed after he got knocked out by Vanderlei, and he remembers thinking, I don't remember what happened. He didn't know what the fuck happened, and they were interviewing him. He's trying to keep it together for the interview. And he was like, you're right, it's not fair. It's not fair to interview a fighter after they've been knocked out. I just fucked up, man. There's no other way to say it. I just, if I could go back, I definitely would have taken it back. I definitely wouldn't have interviewed him. Because I feel like he didn't, and he sent me a text message saying it's all good. I didn't say anything crazy, so it's no big deal. But, you know, he could have. You know, he could have said I never got stopped. I could have said, you know, you don't think anything. Like if somebody doesn't explain to him well enough what happened, and then it takes a few seconds and you forget again. That's the other thing about guys who've been knocked out. Like say if I got knocked out and I ask you, Eddie, what happened? And you said, oh, this dude just punched you in your jaw and knocked you out. I'd be like, no way. Hey man, what happened?
Yeah.
Like a few seconds later, you start asking again. When you get knocked out, it's real weird. So it's a huge fuck up on my part, but I was in shock, honestly. It was so ferocious. The final barrage was so ferocious, and it was the way Jon did it. When he hurt him, once he knew he hurt him, he just started going after him. And one of the spookiest things that he did was the way he tripped him. You see the way he tripped him? Like Daniel's like sort of stumbling back, and Jon just sort of scoops his leg out from under him and trips him. Yeah. And Daniel falls back, and Jon just moves in on him. And you could tell Daniel just couldn't get his feet back under him, and Jon just jumped on him and just murked him.
Cormier did great on his feet for a while there. He did great. But I was really impressed with Jon Jones striking.
Dude.
He throws so much unorthodox shit.
Oh, yeah.
Those